Welcome to another venture out with Russ. It's good to have you along. Today I'm in the capital city of New Zealand, Wellington, and we're going to take on one of Wellington's most iconic walking tracks, the Northern Walkway. Now this runs for about 16 kilometres from Johnsonville in the north of Wellington all the way through into the city to the Botanic Gardens. There's lots of sights and points of interest along the way. It's quite a strenuous walk. It will take us to the high point of Mount Kaukau, where we hopefully will get some good views across the city. So why don't you come along with me as we walk Wellington's Northern Walkway. So it's a little bit gloomy as we start our walk today. There's a bit of low cloud and we've had some drizzle as well. But there is the promise of the clouds parting a bit later in the day, opening up to fine weather. And hopefully that'll coincide with some of the highest points on our walk, because this walk will give you, in points, 360-degree views of the wonderful city of Wellington. And that's certainly worth a look. So what you're seeing now is one of a few tunnels on the route. This one arrives shortly after the start of the walk in Johnsonville. And this tunnel was built as part of the construction of the Johnsonville Reservoir way back in the early part of the 20th century. It's now disused. It looks as if you can access it, but I think we'll pass on that. And after almost exactly a kilometre of steep climbing, we emerge out of the bush. And with nearly 2 kilometres clocked up, we get our first sight of the peak of Mount Kaukau, and you can see the tower on the top shrouded by cloud at the moment. In fact, we're almost in the clouds, so we'll see what that's like at the top. Mount Kaukau you'll hear referred to quite frequently in Wellington and New Zealand as Mount Kaukau, but Kaukau is the correct Maori pronunciation, but if you hear it called Kaukau, it's the same one in the same place, and it sits over 400 metres above Wellington, so it's one of the highest points, and this is a place you don't want to be during one of Wellington's infamous storms. Often records the highest wind speeds up here. Now, approach the top of Mount Kaukau, we're rewarded with our first sight of the city of Wellington. It's bathed in sunshine at the moment. You just might be able to see in the distance the central business district, the harbour, and in the foreground the Henry Stadium, which is the Wellington National Stadium, formerly known as the Sky Stadium, the Westpac Stadium. You can see that in the foreground there. Well, we're almost at the top now of Mount Kaukau, and it's a bit like a scene out of the Hounds of the Baskerville. The cloud is low, and it may be that it's going to obscure some of our views at the top, but we'll see. This is the highest point of the walkway. We've still got some climbing, some peaks to cover, but we will be going down after we get to the peak of Mount Kaukau, and I expect the views to open up from there. And so at the summit of Mount Kaukau is a viewing platform, but it looks as if that's blocked off, almost certainly for safety reasons, so we won't be going up there, but we're still at the summit. And if I turn around, you can just about make out in the gloom through the cloud the city of Wellington. Well, it's a bit of a whiteout here at the top of Mount Kaukau. Just glimpses of the city in the distance. You can see the sun shining on the city, so that gives us a bit of encouragement for later on. But now we start going down, and we descend Mount Kaukau all the way down to Khandallah. And as we make our way down Mount Kaukau, we're out of the low cloud, and we can see a much better view of the city ahead. And this is the beautiful Khandallah automatic telephone exchange. This opened in 1921, construction started in 1918, as you can see there, and it's the oldest surviving example of a telephone exchange that's in its sort of original condition and is now a New Zealand historic place. We're now on this busy road. We leave the swish suburb of Khandallah with its Indian street names, and we go into Ngaio. Once you're in Ngaio, you need to keep your eyes peeled for the signs. The path's pretty well signposted all the way through, but it could go wrong in Ngaio. Just have to watch out for the signs because the path takes you off of the main road and diverts you onto a path that runs round the back of the village. Very pleasant path as well. I think Ngaio is fascinating. It's bush-clad, very hilly. You wouldn't think you'd be able to do much with the land, but look at how the houses have been built in every nook and cranny. So the path leaves the road and heads into Trelissick Park. And this park is named Trelissick. That's after a country estate in Cornwall. Captain Edward Daniel, who commissioned the building of the road through the Ngaio Gorge in the 1800s. Was his country estate, so that's where the name comes from. And it's a rather pleasant place. And it follows the course of the Kaukau stream. Well, we're just coming up to the 9-kilometre mark of the walk, and we're in Trelissick Park, and we're climbing again up from the Ngaio Gorge. That's a steep climb. But there's a few more hills to conquer yet before we get to the Botanic Gardens. It's been a lovely walk so far, really well signposted. The low cloud of early on has become a distant memory, that's gone. And as promised, the clouds are beginning to part and we're seeing a bit more sunshine. So a lovely day. Past very few people en route as well. Probably 4 or 5 in the first 2 hours or so of the walk. So it's quiet as well. You may even have the path to yourself. And look at that. Trelissick Stick Library. Classic volumes at the top, large volumes at the bottom. And this is where we are. Still a long way to go. And there we go, looking back to Mount Kaukau, still shrouded in low cloud and mist, but you can see where we've descended and come across the Ngaio Valley. And we continue in Trelissick Park. So we leave Trelissick Park and Ngaio and we come into Wadestown. Well, this is Weld Street in Wadestown. Guaranteed to get the blood pumping. Very steep street. And this will take us to the Wellington town belt. And there's the view back down Weld Street. Wow, didn't we do well to climb that? And this is a lime green scooter. I just don't believe that anyone got up that hill on one of those. See, Ahu Marangi Hill, Wellington town belt. And so as we make our way into the Wellington town belt, the views start to open up. You can see the busy docks down there. There's a couple of ships in, container ships. You can see the Henry Stadium, home of the Hurricanes and the Wellington Phoenix. Also occasional home to the All Blacks and the All Whites. And you can see there across to the city, and in the distance, the golden strip of sand of Oriental Bay. So every so often there'll be an unexpected obstacle like a fallen tree. But otherwise the path is good. We're still in the Wellington town belt and the path is well formed and runs in an elevated position up in the hills around the edge of the city. Obstacles are a little bit more challenging. So glad I wasn't walking on the path when this one came down. Right, that's over that one. Well, we're descending now from the town belt towards the city, and the noise of the city is building. Now this path comes out at St Mary Street, which is just over the road from the Wellington Botanic Gardens. Not quite sure how far it is to the Botanic Gardens, but it can't be too far. The big buildings of the central business district are approaching fast. And very soon we'll be in the heart of the city. So the last few steps as we leave the Wellington town belt and into the city in St Mary's Street. So we've just crossed Tinakori Road in Wellington to get into the Botanic Gardens. And Tinakori Road is well known in Wellington. It's the birthplace of Catherine Mansfield. But I love the story about how Tinakori Road got its name. Apparently, it's a mangling of the Maori words tina and kohure, which means no dinner, because when Tinakori Road was built, the workers worked so hard they went without dinner. Strange origin for the road, but so today we have Tinakori Road. So we're 15.5 kilometres in now, nearly at the end of the actual trail. We can say that the end of it is at the cable car. You'll see the cable car very soon. That's about 10 minutes walk from where I am, climbing through the Botanic Gardens, up from the Rose Garden, more climbing, and then we'll get to the cable car station and hopefully be able to get a cable car right down into the heart of the city. So the train back to Rarua station, about 20 minutes or so out of Wellington, and we're within 1.6 kilometres of the trailhead, and handily it's well signposted from the station back to the trailhead. Well, I'm just coming up to the trailhead now, just a few hundred metres away and back where the journey began this morning. The recommendation is to allow at least 4 hours to complete this trail. It took me about 4 hours and 10 minutes, so that's not far off, and that's at a reasonably leisurely pace. There is a lot of climbing and descending. The path's in pretty good condition. There's some loose stone underneath, and so it can be a bit slippery in places, but generally it's good. You'll need to have a reasonable level of fitness, I would say, to complete the path, particularly in one go. It's been very quiet on the path today. I must have passed about half a dozen people, all up, until getting to the Botanic Gardens, which is towards the end of the walk, of course, in the city. It strikes me, it's well kept, the path, it's well signposted, it's well provided for. But it seems to me a bit like Wellington's best kept secret. Certainly recommend a walk on the track, and if the full 16 kilometres is too much for you in one go, it's an easy track to split up into sections. It would be easy to split it into 4, for example, because of the availability of train transport to and from various sections of the track. So that's worth considering too. I hope you've enjoyed coming along with me on the Northern Walkway today. It's been great having you with me. Don't forget to subscribe. That makes sure that you don't miss any future videos. We've got plenty of exciting adventures planned for the rest of the year. Do like and comment. Let me know if you enjoyed the video, and perhaps if you have some suggestions on where you'd like to see me go in the future, do that too. Otherwise, it's goodbye for now, and look forward to seeing you the next time we venture out with Russ.